Alright guys, welcome back to another Metaplanet update. So obviously yesterday was Metaplanet Monday, but I missed it because I was kind of busy. But we can see Metaplanet bought 5,419 BTC for $632.53 million, right? I'm surprised I was able to say all those numbers. So if we take a look at the numbers, after the 632 million purchase, they still have about 700 something million, right? So we don't know whether they're going to buy all 700 million in the next tranche, or are they going to split it up to 300 million, right? And obviously they didn't buy it all one shot because they still have one more week where they can't raise any capital from the common stock, right? So when we take a look at the analytics board, you can see that it totally jumped, right? You can see this giant spike here. This was their biggest ever Bitcoin purchase, right? But when we take a look at the share price, right? Actually, the share price has been quite depressing, right? It peaked out at about 1,900 and now it's all the way at 589 as of this video, right? And I think they offered the international offering somewhere here, right? And the stock just went down, down, and down, right? So I think a lot of Metaplanet shareholders, myself included, thinks that this international offering was a mistake, right? But if you take a look at Simon Garovich, what he thinks of the international offering, he thinks it's a value accretive, right? Which it was in the sense that it was done at like a 1.15 times MNAV or something like that. So we make like 15%, right? But obviously, was it worth driving down the MNAV from like 2 to 3? I think the answer to that is obviously no, but with the broader downturn in the Bitcoin treasury sector, if we take a look, right, all this was much higher just a few months ago, right? I'm not sure whether it would have made a huge difference, or is it just that everything was falling and somehow they managed to price that, or is it because the people who are buying, maybe they offload their current shares, right? So I think a lot of people would blame the short selling and all of that, right? But I think in this case, those new shares are not available to cover short sellers' old shares, right? So I think what could have possibly happened, this is not exactly short selling, but let's say I'm an institution and I have $100 million of Metaplanet. I only want 100 million of exposure to Metaplanet, right? So I'll just sell in to lock in my gains now because I know in a few weeks, I'm going to have a deal to buy a Metaplanet 15% discounted compared to the market price, right? That is potentially what happened, right? So for the people with the tinfoil hat saying that this was all manipulation, that it got pushed out. Obviously, I do feel like at this point, maybe we should have sold because the Bitcoin treasury space was definitely in a bubble, right? You see, like you wake up every Monday, right? And Metaplanet stock will be up 20%, right? So maybe we did get it a bit in a bubble, right? So if you do have your tinfoil hats on and you say that, okay, this is all manipulation, right? This is all manipulation, right? Then maybe because they bought somewhere here, they can manipulate it back to the upside and we can make a lot of money, right? So that's a light-hearted joke that may have some truth in it, right? Let's pray and hope, right? But when we take a look at the MNAV now, it's at 1.3, right? So selling common shares are not going to be very accretive, right? When I bought Metaplanet, I think the yen value was like 300, right? The net asset value. And now the yen value is at 500 something, right? So we can see obviously Metaplanet did increase their yen per share valuation, right? But not as much as the share price was reflecting, right? And I honestly thought we would have sold a lot more shares somewhere here to make this MNAV higher, right? But on the bright side, I think 1 times MNAV is the floor, so I don't think we are too far away from that, right? 1.3 times MNAV is maybe somewhere like 480 or 470 or something like that. Then it's 1 times MNAV, right? And I really doubt that it will sell lower than that. Obviously, if we have a big, fat, brutal bear market, Bitcoin goes down 80%. Obviously, Metaplanet is going down with the ship, right? So if we take a look at the MNAV, it's the lowest in history that's Metaplanet's ever traded at, right? Some people will say that, oh, how is it going to get up from 1 to back to 4 or 5? I think it's unlikely to go back to somewhere like 23 or something like that. Even 10, right? I think that's very unlikely, right? But could it go back to 3-4 times? That's something I could see in a more euphoric market where we have more retail shareholders, right? And why do I say that? Because if you take a look, right, actually our shareholder count is only at 128,000, right? And if you think about 128,000 compared to the population of the planet and people who might get enthusiastic about a company like this, even the population of Japan is much more than 128,000, right? But at the end of the day, this is all just speculation, and this stock definitely depends on sentiment, right? This is not a normal stock, right? Because in normal stocks, actually the stock price doesn't affect the company that much. But when it comes to these Bitcoin treasury companies, right, the stock actually affects the fundamentals of the company a lot, right? And honestly, if the stock price just went like this, right, we wouldn't be able to raise much capital. Therefore, we cannot accrue any Bitcoin per share, right? And basically, I think if that happens, the stock price will just be flat forever, right? But I think eventually animal spirits will come back. After this decline, a lot of the old weaker hands have been washed out. Obviously, it does feel terrible watching the stock go up 150% in a couple of weeks just to go back down. Now it's even below my cost price, right? And this all could have been avoided if I just taken a look at this overbought signal and decided, you know what, every time it's overbought, 85 and above RSI, I'm just gonna sell, right? So if we see a 85 RSI, sorry guys, I'm gonna be out of here, right? Because this was actually very, very painful, right? If we take a look at this drawdown here, imagine being up 150% in about 6 weeks, and then now you're down 20 or 30%, right? But now I want to talk a bit about the bright side, right? The bright side, obviously, number one is that we're very close to 1 MNAF, right? So the downside, I cannot see another like 50% or 60% downside, right? Maybe 20-30% to get rid of this 0.34 MNAF is possible, which I don't think is likely also, right? And what am I doing with my shares? I'm not buying or selling any shares. So for now, what I'm doing is I'm just holding my existing shares, right? And the second thing is, what is there to look forward to, right? Obviously, the next buy will be 600-700 or even 300 million split into 2 buys, right? And after the 30th of September, Metaplanet can once again sell common stock. So let's hope for some market manipulation upwards so we can sell more common stock at a higher MNAF, right? But all jokes aside, some other things that I'm looking forward to is obviously the preferred shares. While I don't completely agree with how they're doing the preferred shares, because Bitcoin actually doesn't generate any yield, right? So where are you going to pay the dividend from, right? And they said we're going to pay the dividend by selling some common equity, right? At this current point in time, it's nothing to worry about. But if it gets to too big of a portion of the capital stack, then obviously it's very worrisome, right? And the next thing I'm looking forward to is obviously Bitcoin making more all-time highs, right? Because you can see when it comes to gold, right? Gold has been making all-time highs left and right, right? Let's take a look here. Over the past like 6 weeks, right? Gold has just been marching higher and higher, while Bitcoin has actually been floundering, right? So in summary, for the video, number one, MNAF has come down dramatically, right? Now that if we raise common equity, it's not so accretive as it was when it's 4 or 5 times MNAF. Number two, international offering was probably a mistake. Number three, a few things that I'm looking forward to is obviously the next tranche of the international offering proceeds, which is around 700 million remaining. And then the preferred shares and also Bitcoin hitting new all-time highs, right? So these are like some of the summary of the video, right? So what are some of my predictions, right? I do still think we see higher prices on BTC, right? This could be a top because if we take a look here, 1 top, 2 tops, that's kind of like what happened like last cycle, right? 1 top, but here it's a massive top, right? But you can see here also 1 top, 2 top, right? Normally there's 2 tops, right? So yeah, is it possible that this was the high of the bull market? It is very possible, right? There were so many crypto IPOs. There were people starting Bitcoin treasury companies left and right, and all these things, right? But on the flip side, our fiat is getting like destroyed every year, right? So like I think the US dollar is down like 10 or 12% this year. So I think it's also possible that we go up even more and hit 150k or 160k, something like that is also very, very possible, right? So I would think the up scenario is about 60% and the down scenario is about 40%, right? And I know a lot of people don't want to hear this. And the truth is, if you want some answers like that, you need to join a cult, right? Because I don't think trading will be for you, right? If you are in a cult and you say, okay, it'll go up, it'll go up, it'll go up. Unfortunately, my crystal ball is broken and I'm not in a cult. So I'm going to have to stick with 60% it goes up, 40% it goes down, right? So either scenario would not shock me. But why I think Bitcoin will still see new all-time highs is because I see a lot of social interest, right? People who are not normally interested in crypto or equity markets, I see them coming back to the market, right? And I guess that's considered retail, right? Because people who are completely, they don't care about all this, right? And then suddenly they're interested. that can also be one of the top signals, right? But doesn't mean they enter here instantly it's going to go like this, right? We haven't seen like the whole like parabolic run out. So in my opinion, something like this or something like this can be considered quite parabolic run up, right? So we could see we could say that this was the last parabolic run up. It's also possible. But yeah, my current opinion is that we will still see 150k BTC. If I change my opinion, I'll make another video. So another reason that I'm still staying bullish is because you can see Q4 and also Q1 are actually the most bullish seasonals for crypto, right? And this is specifically for Bitcoin. And then you can see this actually is kind of a repeat as well, right? Last year Q4, this was when Trump was winning the election. Then we have a blow off top. We can call this a blow off top, right? I think. And then it went all the way down. So obviously we didn't see like a 75% correction or whatever, right? And I don't think we will see so many like 80% corrections in the future for Bitcoin, right? Because a lot of institutions are now in, every time there's people like buying the dip. So I think in future, the volatility for Bitcoin will also dampen down, right? So could we see like a 15% correction here? Here was about a 15% correction. Then we move up like 20% and then we move back 15%. I think that's a very, very big possibility in my head also, right? So I'm still bullish for the next 1 or 2 quarters, maybe until December or February, then we'll have to reevaluate. But until then, we'll continue to keep up with Metaplanet's developments and also how Bitcoin is doing. With that being said, that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day ahead and peace out.